All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Matt Remuzzi. And Matt, did I get it right?
You got it right. It rhymes with fuzzy. That's what I tell people. You nailed it.
And I appreciate you talking because, before we hit the record button, you were like, "Yeah, Kevin, my name is Matt Remuzzi." Most people look at it and pronounce it Remuzzi, but it's Remuzzi like fuzzy, and
Yes.
that's great. That's great. And so people will remember that now.
Yes.
And this is I've really been looking forward to this conversation with you, Matt, because you and I had a previous conversation already, got to know each other a little bit, and from my end, it was really cool because I got to connect you, introduce you to one of my friends, Vinny Fisher, who Vinny's been a longtime friend of mine for I don't know how many years, a number of years. He was one of the very first guys I ever interviewed for this podcast, and you guys. I just see some really cool stuff there, so I'm looking forward. And so thank you for that, because just through that conversation, just naturally, I get to do what I love doing, which is facilitate relationships that can impact millions of people. And you guys are definitely two guys where that is a possibility and stuff because of who you
Absolutely.
are and who you serve. And so
Yes.
so I'm looking forward to this conversation. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to the folks over at podcastguests.com, because
hmm
those guys run an amazing platform. I've met a number of really awesome guests for this podcast, you being one of them, Matt. And so I just want to honor that, and just shout out to those guys for the amazing work that they're doing, bringing great guests together for podcast hosts like myself. And
Absolutely.
what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by turning it over to you, Matt, so that we can set a little bit of context. I want to let the listeners get a really good idea of who you are, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you to do the work that you do, and even a little bit of, backstory about how you got into doing what you do and stuff. Because what this podcast is really all about is about facilitating relationships. And of course, in order to do that, we need to have an idea of who somebody is and what makes them tick. So let's start right there, Matt.
Absolutely. Well, and I appreciate your having me on and letting me share this. It's a story I've told a few times, but I always enjoy kind of revisiting this crazy path that got me to where I am today. I feel like it all built towards where I am, but I had no idea as I went along, right? I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to have my own thing. But, in my teens and my 20s, I didn't know what that was going to be. So like everyone else, right? You go to school and you get jobs and you kind of try to figure things out. So I was working in restaurants for years, and that was a great experience from the standpoint of learning a lot of things. And I'm going to talk about some of that and later on in this podcast. But I wasn't running a restaurant. I wasn't the owner of anything at that point, and I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I decided to go back to school, get my MBA at San Diego State University, which had an entrepreneurship track for the MBAs. So I got an MBA with an emphasis in entrepreneurship, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and got a job working at a consulting company, working with small business owners, doing consulting, helping them write business plans and do financial projections and things.
Okay.
And I got hired in May, and I got laid off that same October because that was right at the height of the dot-com bust, right? For years, anything .com, investors threw money at it. There were high hopes. They suddenly realized, hey, these businesses still need to make money and, make sense.
Imagine that.
I was at one that wasn't making money and didn't make a lot of sense, but I was working with small business owners who still legitimately needed this help. They needed help doing financial projections and putting business plans together and doing things. So I thought, well, I'll just work as a freelancer. All right. I'll just be a consultant on my own until I get a real job. Well, 23 years later, I still haven't gotten a real job. It turns out that was the break I needed, getting laid off to really get into doing my own thing. And I discovered, being a consultant on my own was a great start. From there, I launched into some other things. I built some software. I ended up buying a restaurant because that was a space that I knew, but now I'd be the owner instead of an employee. I grew that, I sold it, and then I thought, oh, maybe the path for me is buying and selling businesses, or buying businesses and growing them. So what I'll do is I'll become a business broker. That way I'll get first pass at any business. I'll buy the ones I like and I'll sell the ones that I don't want, or I'm not interested in, and I'll make a nice commission. It'll be great. So I did that for 4 years. I never found a business that I wanted to buy. I sold a whole lot of them. And again, the whole time here working with small business owners. And that's where the light bulb finally went off. What I discovered talking to all these small business owners was time after time after time, they would tell me how much trouble they had with their bookkeeping. Their bookkeepers were, charging them by the hour. They never knew how many hours it was going to cost them. They didn't get back to them. They weren't super responsive. They weren't great at customer service. And even the books weren't always done very well, or they get, months behind, and all these problems. So I thought, maybe what I should be doing is starting a bookkeeping business, because I think I can solve these problems. I can do a better job than the alternatives that these guys are telling me that they have right now. And then I knew when I had my restaurant, I went through 3 bookkeepers in 4 years. So I knew firsthand the problem. So in January 2012, I took over the spare bedroom in the house and I set up bookkeeping, CapForge bookkeeping as a business. And I very quickly started signing up clients. Within 6 months, by June, I leased an office. I hired the first bookkeeper and I said, I'm going to go out and get clients. I'm going to bring them in and you're going to do the bookkeeping. And the 2 of us became 3 of us. And now here we are 11 years later, there's 70 of us. We've got over
Wow.
1,000 clients. We've got clients in almost all 50 states. And it's just been a phenomenal, run. And I still get to work with small business owners and entrepreneurs who are my favorite people.
Uh-huh.
And I get to work on my own business and growing, which is my favorite thing to do. So I mean, I'm super happy. I didn't know I was going to end up here. I never, if you'd asked me 10 or, right before I started, or 15 or 20 years ago, are you going to end up in accounting? I would have said never in a million years. I have no interest in accounting,
Yeah.
but here I am. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all my experience and everything I went through kind of led to this, and it's been a phenomenal ride.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, yeah, I suppose, yeah, it could be said that you're in accounting and that's what your company does, but that's not really what you do. You
Right.
lead the team. You have the
Right.
vision for the company, and you paint that vision so that the members on your team can see it, and that it excites them too, that they want to be a part of that vision and stuff. Yeah.
Right. I
And
think I know it enough to be able to talk to clients about it and make sure that the people who work here are doing a good job with it. But you're right, it's not my day to day. I add the most value by working on building the business,
yeah,
not by just doing accounting alongside the other people who do accounting here. If I did that, we'd still be 2 or 3 people.
sure,
So it's
sure.
just a different kind of mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Different mindset, different skill set too. and so,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so, yeah. Okay, very cool. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context, which that was great. That was great. We're going to switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, Matt, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Matt, I'm just really excited to hear your story, your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, and I appreciate your asking the question, because honestly, it wasn't something I'd given a lot of thought to, but when you asked it and I started reflecting back and thinking, what are some of the core things that I've used through my whole business career that have been key to the success I feel, and where did I learn them, and how did I get to be where I am today because of them? A name immediately popped into my mind, and that is Paul Nishiyama.
Okay.
He was the training manager at the first restaurant I ever worked at after I graduated college. So I went to UCSD. That was where I went to college. I got a degree in psychology. Why? I don't know. To this day, I don't know why I picked psychology. It just seems like it could be interesting. They didn't have business, but I really wanted to go to UCSD, so that's where I ended up. I
Okay.
graduated. I had no interest in going on in psychology, which you would have needed to do to get a job in it. So I went right back to restaurants, which is what I'd done during college and before college. I knew restaurants, so I figured I'll go back to restaurants. So I
Sure.
got hired as a restaurant manager trainee, and Paul was the training manager.
Okay.
I, up to that point, had never been in charge of anybody, but now I was being hired to be in charge of a typical restaurant had about 30 people in it. So I was going to be in charge of up to 30 people. And, at 21 years old, some of the people I was going to be in charge of were going to be older than I was. Some of them would be younger. And I just had no idea how to effectively manage and motivate people. And the thing is, there's a lot of ways to do it wrong, right? You can come in with the I'm the boss, you have to listen to me attitude, which may work when they're looking at your face, but as soon as you turn around, right, that falls apart.
Clearly.
You can come in with hey, I'm going to be friends with everybody. Well, as soon as that happens, right, people decide they can come in late, they can leave early, they can take long lunches because hey, the boss is my buddy. Why wouldn't, it be okay? Or, you can kind of take the third road, which is you can be professional. And that's what I really learned from Paul about how to motivate people, how to individually understand this person is motivated by money. So maybe I can offer them a bonus or give them some extra shifts so they get some extra time. That person is motivated by praise. So maybe I make sure every time I walk by that person, I tell them, hey, great job today on the, whatever it was you were doing in the kitchen or you're doing as a cashier or whatever. Some people are, you just have to understand what each person's motivation is. And some people you might recognize aren't right. They're not in the right job. They might have been hired for one thing, but they'd be better off doing something else. And what I learned from Paul over the course of about a year of working together was the fundamentals of how to manage people. And especially in a restaurant, it was hard because I didn't have a lot of leeway to give raises. I couldn't do much other than how I organized the shifts to really motivate people with money. I was limited in the tools that I could use, right? So I had to be good. I had to be firm, but professional. You could be friendly, but not friends. All these things about how to manage people really came to me from what Paul was teaching me. And subsequently, what I discovered was after I became a manager at the first store, they liked how I did things. And so they then decided what they would do is send me to any stores that were underperforming and
Oh,
get them back up to speed. And every single time, what I would discover is all the problems could basically be traced back to the manager, right? This store has a problem with the employees stealing. Why is that? Well, one, because the manager hardly ever comes out of the office, right? So they manage from the desk without really, and two, the manager was stealing. So the employees were going, well, apparently it's okay. This is how it's done. So, or, there was another story that had problems where, the upper management would say, we don't get it, right? When we go to this store, everybody looks perfect. Every shirt is tucked in, every pant leg is creased, everybody is, looks perfect. The store is spotless. But that particular manager ran things like a drill sergeant. And the problem was then people would be, they would, yes, they'd adhere to the standards, but in a way that was counterproductive, right? So he'd go yell at somebody, hey, I want you to clean this counter off so it's spotless. And when I come back, I can see my face in it. And I don't want you to do anything else until that counter is spotless. Do you understand? And the employee would go, okay. So they'd start cleaning the counter, and behind them, a line of customers was stacking up. And they go, oh, I'm just going to keep cleaning the counter because that's what he told me. And then he'd come out and go, why aren't you helping those customers? Well, you told me I had to clean the so you get that kind of management style. So I learned so much from Paul about how to respect people as individuals, how to understand their motivations and how to motivate them, and how to get them to want to do a good job, even when I wasn't watching, even when it was my day off and I wasn't there, and how to be professional and be friendly without crossing the line into now we're buddies and we're hanging out and you no longer look at me as somebody with supervisory authority. So all those lessons I've taken from there to when I had my own business and I had my own restaurant, and now here, at the accounting firm, treating people fairly with respect as an individual, understanding what motivates them, understanding how to put them in the best spot for them to be as well performing as they can, to reach their own potential, to give them opportunities to grow. And as a result, although I hear all the time from my other friends who own accounting businesses that recruiting is so hard, we actually don't have that problem. We're able to find great people and keep our turnover low and keep people really happy and motivated, which turns into great customer service and a higher level of performance and everything else. So, and I trace it all back to Paul really got me off on the right foot with understanding what a good manager should do and what was important and how to really be the person that employees would work hard for and be motivated by and be appreciative of, and have that be that two-way street. And without that, I easily could have gone down the wrong path. I could have been somebody who didn't understand that, who, didn't treat people not that I would treat people badly, but just not being, as motivating and as empowering as I could be. And so in thinking about your question, I give 100% credit to Paul for getting me on the right track and allowing me to have the managerial ability to grow a business to 70 plus people that I don't think I otherwise would have gotten anywhere close to.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So there's been a lot of water under the bridge for you since this experience with Paul. So
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to what you have to share when I ask this question. So for you, if you look at all the things that have happened in your life and in your business over the years as a result of what Paul taught you really early on and stuff, I want you to think. I'm sure you could come up with tons of examples, but I want you. I want to challenge you to just come up with one. The thing that comes to your mind first. So, give me an example of a situation where you got to make a really big impact. Maybe that was serving a large client or what have you, where you made a really substantial impact, and hands down that would have never happened if not for this relationship and what transpired with you and Paul years ago.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I can think of so many examples. But I think one of the key things that I learned as part of this process was that what matters or what you should judge is by the outcome. Not did that person do exactly what you would have done, but did that person do it in a way that works and got what needed to be done out of the process, right? So a lot of times I think people manage by expecting that somebody's going to do exactly what they would have done.
Sure.
That doesn't have to happen that way, as long as what does get done is, meets the criteria. So I feel super proud that I have two women here who work for me, one works for me for 5 years, one's 2.5.
Okay.
I've helped them kind of grow in their roles to the point where last year I promoted both of them to be co-CEOs of the company.
Wow.
And I never would have even imagined that I could delegate responsibility like that to anyone if I hadn't learned that initial lesson from Paul, to where, are you trying to have them do exactly what you would do, or are you trying to have them do a great job and have the job be done at the end of the day the way it needed to be done? So they don't run the business exactly the way I would run it. They don't make every decision exactly the way I might have made it, but they do a fantastic job. And truth be told, half the time I think they make better decisions than I would have made. So I'm very lucky to have found such great people and to have them be open to coaching and promotion and the opportunity. They welcome the opportunity, but I never would have even thought that I could get to a point where I could delegate as much as I have, to the point where I now have two very amazing people running the day-to-day operation of the company. if I hadn't all the way back in the early days learned that you can be a more effective manager by letting go than by holding everything
Yeah,
tight. And I think
yeah,
you see a lot of people fail because they hold everything so tight. They want to have their hands in everything. They want to control everything. Everything has to be exactly the way they would do it. And as a result, they only ever get to 2 or 3 people, and that's as much as they can keep their arms around. And so I give Paul full credit for helping me understand the power of empowerment and delegation, and being a good manager to let go more than to hold on.
yeah. Wow, wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. I thank you for sharing all that, because you have a gift, Matt. You have a gift. This gift, you empower people in your in your company. You really empower people, and just I mean, I can't think of a better word than that. But I mean, that the example that you just gave with these two ladies, you have empowered them. And yeah, they don't necessarily do it the way that you would do it,
Right.
but like you alluded to, sometimes they make better decisions than you would. and
Yeah.
and like I just have this feeling they just want to do right by you. They want to make you proud of them. Kind of like my son is that way. He's like he wants to. I mean, he's driving now. He's getting ready to get his driver's license. So he's in driver's ed, and he's doing a dang good job driving, and I give him that feedback, and I point out when he's like, hey, you're kind of sticking way over the line here, at this intersection, and you need to stay back a little bit when you come up, but also praise him too, when
Mhm.
does things well. And it's like when we empower people that way, they want to do right by us, they want to do right by us, and it's man, that's a gift, for sure. And
It is. It's amazing. And I think, again, going back to one of the things that Paul had shared with me was, right, every time you give somebody a correction, right, you also, what you want to praise too, right? Because some people go around, some people manage. I only tell people when they screw up, right? I'll yell at them if they screw up, and if they don't screw up, then I don't have to talk to them. No, right? You want to go on and say, hey, great job on that. Hey, I really appreciate your handling that. Hey, the way you figured that out was fantastic. Why don't we write that up and share it with everybody? Because everybody would benefit from that,
yeah,
right? People love that. They thrive on that. And there's no reason not to do that, right? It doesn't cost you anything. It benefits you.
yeah,
So then when something comes up and you go, hey, this didn't work out the way we were hoping. Here's what I think we can do better next time. They Okay, yeah, great. I appreciate the feedback, and it's not like this. Oh, here we go again. I'm getting yelled at again. All I do is, disappoint people. And you don't need to manage people like that. You don't need to interact with people like that. You can make even something that didn't work out a positive experience. And for sure, when they've done a great job, acknowledge it, bring it up, thank them for the hard work. The only reason you have employees is because they've chosen to work for you. They could all quit. So,
yeah, yeah,
right, you're
yeah,
not you're not entitled to people working for you. That's
that's
a
right.
privilege that you have as a business owner. So you need to treat it like a privilege, and you need to encourage them. And that is, again, that pays dividends back, right? They're motivated and want to work harder for you. You owe them the respect of appreciating that and letting them know, I think. And I think it's a shortcoming for people who don't recognize that, or don't, they end up missing out on a lot of things they could have had just by changing the mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Matt, I really want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation and to kind of just share from your heart. For anybody that's listening to this, going, "Dang, Kev, I really like Matt. I like the way he shows up." Or maybe they're just kind of thinking about some of the stuff you shared and like, "Man, I'd like to know more about Matt and what they do." How can they find out more information about you guys, Matt, and what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the best place to go is visit the website, capforge.com. It's
Okay.
got information about what we do and our services. And if there's something we can help you with, great. And honestly, I say all the time, I've been on, a few different podcasts and events. I always look, if you're just a business owner and you have a question, I don't care if you need accounting help or not, right? Just shoot me an email. If I can help you, give you my 2 cents. I'm happy to do it, right? Like I said, I love entrepreneurs. They're my people, right? I really resonate with people who go on this journey. So if you're struggling with something or you have a question, you just want an extra set of eyes or a second opinion or something, whether it's accounting or just business in general, feel free to reach out, shoot me an email. If I can help you, I'm happy to take time and connect with you and see if we can do something to help or just give you
Awesome.
some advice or whatever it is. So yeah, capforge.com is the place to connect.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thanks again, Matt, and really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. And I just want to, make sure I'm just going to add, just in case, is there any last thing you might feel led to share before we call it a wrap here?
No, I just want to thank you for asking the question, for getting my mind thinking, and for being able to kind of share this story and share my appreciation for the great mentorship I got early on. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times we get caught up in our day to day. We're not just sort of thinking about today's problems. So
Sure.
I appreciate your making me stop and take a minute to think and reflect back and really ask myself that question and come up with, wow, I should get in touch with Paul and let him know.
Yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Matt. Really appreciate you.